Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
That was good.
Grab these burrs. All right. Motherfucker. So the other day, I was trying to open up a beer with my lighter, and I cracked the end of the lighter, and it just started spraying out all the lighter fluid, like, you know, I'm like, ah, fuck. So it got all over my shirt, all over everything, right? So I take off the fucking shirt, and I throw it down and everything, right? And then I'm smoking. And I'm like, this is later on, so I'm smoking or whatever, right? And I go to ash, and there's ash on the fucking floor and shit, but like the cherry falls off the ash onto that shirt that had all the lighter fluid on it.
Yeah.
And it started a fucking fire and almost burned down my whole fucking house.
I feel like that's karma for all the lighters of mine you stole, so you kind of deserve that, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. No, that didn't happen.
Well, it should have been. Now it needs to happen. You've spoken into the universe.
Well, no, because I broke the lighter, actually. I fucking sprayed it everywhere. It didn't start on fire or nothing. But as soon as I said that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep this going. It started on fire. But no, fucking, I did that, and I had just bought the fucking lighter, too. I was fucking pissed.
I'm cool with that. That's enough karma for me. Just simply the broken lighter. I don't want anybody to be on fire. That's fucked up.
Right, and then now this is it's chipped in the exact spot that I had broke the other lighter.
I got like 4 bottle openers. Just take one next time you're at my house.
Bro, I have a bottle opener too, but I have a lighter in my pocket versus going to go grab a bottle opener. There's a lighter right in my pocket, man.
You're a bachelor. You just got to get that shit next to your living room chair, bro.
Nah, I'm a classy broad, though.
Hey, only on Tuesdays.
Hey. All right, so, fuck, dude, now I don't even want to talk about that topic. What's a good topic?
Hot topic. When's the last time you've been to the mall, dude?
Yesterday.
Really? What mall?
Northtown.
Oh, that fucking count, dude. Northtown's a little strip mall ass local.
Arbor Lakes. That's literally strip mall.
Is it really?
Arbor Lakes is a fucking the shopping center in Maple Grove. It's all outside. There's no.
Yeah, but they got bougie shits though.
Yeah.
Northtown has like outlet Best Buy and outlet home furniture and an outlet store.
Yeah.
I brought Michael the other day. There was literally a shop that was just closed. Like there was nothing in there. And he goes, "Does this store just not open?" And I was like, "Why? There ain't nothing there." He goes, "There's never been nothing there." And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not right now." And you just can't have a rational conversation with a 5-year-old because everything is just in ultimate exact.
Oh. Dude,
it's like, what do you mean? Store there? Why would there be a store there? And it's like, well, now there used to be, but not. He goes, "Oh, like when? Last week?" Like, well, no.
Dude, I thought you were talking about, like, you were talking with the store clerk about the building next door. How come there's never been a store there? I'm like, dude, I remember when I was a kid, I remember asking my mom, like, about the telephone wires and everything, right? I'm like, somebody had to build that, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, there's one right fucking up the street. They had to build that one too? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, there's one that's connected to another one. I'm like, so all the time, and then I'm not even joking, dude, for like the next 2 years from like when I'm like all the way up till 7, from 5 to 7, I'm just like fixated on the fact, like, how the fuck did people get here and build that? Like, we're on our road trips to Arizona or to Arkansas and shit or whatever, right? I'm like, how the hell did somebody build this? How did they know we were coming this way? How they know? I'm like, dude. And now I'm like, as an adult, I'm like thinking about all that stuff. I'm like, it makes so much sense now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, the brain just works different. But you're talking about middle of nowhere. It's like not even like how'd they build the road? It's like, well, no, how'd they drive on the road that was built to put up the damn telephone lines?
Right. No, my teacher actually gave me a flip book once or whatever, right? Where I actually thought that this is how shit was built and everything, right? Somebody built a machine, and then the machine, and this is a huge flip book or whatever, right? And so somebody, it's a quick thing of somebody building a machine. The machine starts stacking roads in front of it and driving along, and then it gets to a point where it wants to make a turn. So somebody else builds another machine while that machine makes its turn, building a road that way, and the other machine builds a road that way, and it turned into this huge thing. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, that's how things are made. That's how things work.
It's when you keep that mind frame is how you just start inventing shit, because it just seems that simple. You're like, well, that's just what you do. I'll put wheels on the bottom of this shoe, and motherfucker's gonna go rollerblade. You're like, what's rollerblade? Watch. You just go slip and slide. You know what I'm saying?
And then once I put on this rollerblade, I can have sex with another man. I mean,
hey.
No. I mean, it's an option. You don't have to. It's not forced. You can if you want to.
Dare say it's encouraged, but that's neither here nor there.
All right. We need to get on an MMA topic. So fights. People punch each other in the face, sometimes kick, elbow, or knee. What do you think about that?
I think that is simply the most beautiful thing in the world. I think when you put two guys in a closed environment and you say, hey, why don't you guys just figure this out properly and give them a set time frame, maybe a couple water breaks in between. Hell, throw a third guy in there just to make sure all the rules gets guided by. I think it has a future. I don't know about you, but I feel like they're on to something.
I mean, maybe, but like, it seems a little bit barbaric, you know? Like, you said something about having a third guy in there, making sure everybody follows the rules, but like, we should have a set amount of rules, you know? And then like, each state can make their own, but there should be some rules, and only once there's rules, maybe it'll take off.
Yeah. And I think what we should really do, though, is we should let them knee each other in the face, kick each other in the face with their shin bones, but we should pad up their hands. But elbows are fine.
I know. I don't like elbows. Elbows, if they're coming down like this, no.
Kill a guy. Are you serious? Like,
okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, no, we'll chuck that out the back door. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, nut shots. You're allowed 2 per fight. 2 nut shots per fight, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we should warn them though and act like it's a big deal.
Boom.
Yeah,
I like it, dude. I think we're fucking on to something. Fighting. Yeah.
It's for the people. We're for the people.
Oh my god, dude. Honestly, like, could you imagine like that? Like that was stupid, but like that's how the conversation went, more or less. Like, oh no, it's barbaric. No, we need rules. No, we need. It's like it was like now that it's all done, like it's an actual sport now. It's on ESPN, everything and stuff. Like looking back on all of it and how much people were trying to block and stop it. It's what the hell? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's just what the fuck.
It's everything, and obviously we love fighting, and the rules are goofy. But yeah, I think that's like, if as a sports fan in general, if there's one place I'd love to be, it'd be in some of these rules meetings throughout the years. I mean, think about even football back in the day. Like, all right, we're gonna pick up the ball and we're gonna run with it down the field, and the guy goes, so we're gonna kick it. That's why it's football. It goes, on 4th down, we'll kick it.
Dude, oh my God, the rules for everything. Like, okay, yeah, because at a point in time for football, there wasn't even forward passing, right? You couldn't throw the ball, or you couldn't run the ball.
That might be some like back in the day shit.
It was one of the two. Yeah, it's an old rule or whatever. But I wouldn't fucking people were gonna laugh and make fun of me or whatever. I don't know which fucking one. I used to play football, dude. I was really good too. I was defensive player of the year every year I played. But guess what? I don't know the history of the sport. fuck you. But I know one of them was the rule. You either couldn't run the ball or you couldn't pass the ball. And I feel like passing is the more realistic one. I don't think you could pass the ball forward. But then somebody was like, no, we need to be able to pass the ball in football. But anyhow, like the rules for MMA and how it became and everything, right? Because was Pancrase before or after MMA? Do you know?
The promotion or like pancration, like
The fighting style, the fighting style.
Pancration fighting style dates back to the first Olympic Games. So I mean, we're talking hundreds of years, so way before MMA. Yeah.
Okay, so when the sport actually came along, it was like modernized or popularized after TV was invented. I mean, which one came first after the TV?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, pancration, like I said, been around, and then with MMA, at first, you know, it was no holds barred forever, and then it finally, once they added those rules, like we were joking about, is when they started referring to it as mixed martial arts. But I mean, Pancrase, the promotion in Japan, they were around way before UFC. They were around the early '90s. That's where you see like Boss Rutan, you know, open hand palm, knocking cats out, kicking them in their face and stuff. Like that was a different breed of stuff back in those days.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, that's kind of where I get into the fact with the whole rules making thing and stuff, you know, because like Pancrase seemed like they had a good thing going, you know. It was pretty much MMA, just open palm strikes. But then in MMA, when they were going over it, somebody was like, no, I'd rather punch a guy than open palm him. And when they're making these rules about you can't do a 12-6 because that's too dangerous, but you can punch a guy in the face versus there's a sport that exists already where you could palm a guy in the face and they still chose to allow people to punch instead of palm. Now, when it comes to like those rule sets and how they decide those rules, it's like, was that something that was ever even looked at? And then two, it's like when they go into other sports like combat jujitsu and things like that, combat jujitsu is separated by only a few things from MMA, technically. I believe you can wear a rash guard if you want. There's no gloves. But I believe you can wear gloves if you want, even though they don't provide any extra. I think they only provide a hindrance if you choose to wear the gloves in combat jiu-jitsu. You can slap on the ground. You can't slap on the feet. There's no knees, no elbows, no kicks, none of that. But you can slap on the ground. Now, let's say that you simply add strikes on the feet with combat jiu-jitsu, then it becomes Pancrase with no kicks. You know, and I'm like, so now that just where it gets it opens up a wormhole for like the differences in the sports and how do you even separate it and stuff, you know? I mean, obviously we have MMA commissions and boxing commissions, and I guess even now more are regulatory kickboxing. I don't know if they're commissions, but there's people regulating kickboxing matches now too, or more often, because it wasn't in Minnesota in the United States that we're at. It was tough man tournaments pretty much, and it's still not highly regulated. You have the option to regulate your kickboxing matches or not. So yeah, we're still getting. I think I'm getting further away from what I was actually talking about. But yeah, like going into these rules and how you separate the sports is how does that not become confusing when you're trying to become either a promoter or a competitor?
Yes, exactly. And I feel like luckily, as far as like mainstream goes, you know, everybody's like, oh, I want to be Dana White. I want to be the MMA promoter. But you do, like you said, when you're around the game as much as we are, you see these other promoters that are doing these other shows. They're doing kickboxing shows, Muay Thai shows. You know, what's the difference between those two? If you go ask the layman fan, they won't be able to tell you the difference between a kickboxing fight and a Muay Thai fight, even after watching it. They can watch them back to back. They really wouldn't know the difference. But you start talking to the fighters, you go, oh, well, the clinching, the elbows, you know, the style of fight, the pace of the fight for the most part. It's not really rules, but it's the style, and that's how the fight plays out. But that wouldn't be noticeable to, like I said, the layman eye. So you talk about those little differences, and then you see those guys that do everything, and they're able to have multiple fights in these different disciplines, and they're able to grow themselves as martial artists, whereas compared to one fighter that It's like, well, no, I'm a boxer. I box every day of the week. This is all I do. I only box. And you see how they grow. And so being able to go in and out of fights, go into the different fighting styles, I feel like that causes a different thing. So as far as the commissions and the fighters themselves, there's so much overlap and overlay that I feel like it causes, like you said, more confusion than anything. So looking at it from the outside, it's almost easier just to go, well, no, they're striking, they're doing this, they're doing that. Whereas with MMA, you can say, well, no, that's UFC shit. You can blend it in yourself. You know what I'm saying? So it allows them to grow. And I don't even think I'm making a point right now. I'm kind of just rambling about the different fighting styles, but the difference between them is so small that you almost have to be a nerd. Like you have to be us. You have to be someone that watches 100 fights a week or every week, and that's just what you do, to almost know the difference and get on YouTube and watch these things. So it's almost easier to just stay out of it, because once you're in too deep. It's like reading the first Lord of the Rings book. You got to read them all now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, well, I guess that's part of the reason why, like, I've been literally having these conversations with you and multiple other friends and stuff, you know, people who want to do MMA, but they know that they don't want to fight. So, but combat jujitsu interests them and things like that. I've literally been messaging the head of the Minnesota State Athletic Commission, asking him questions like, what's the difference between pancrase and combat jujitsu? You know, like if I was to, if there was a promoter or somebody to put on a combat jujitsu card without kicks, are they allowed to still open palm strike on the feet as well on the ground? You know, and then basically he said, as soon as you start to allow kicks as soon as you allow open hand striking on the feet, you start to step over that line between MMA, because you still have jiu-jitsu going on, and then you have the boxing aspect, and we have a boxing commission and MMA commission in the state of Minnesota. So when that goes down, now which one's going to take over and oversee and make sure, hey, you're not boxing, or that this isn't MMA, you know, because let's say I start to put on those shows and I'm the only one I'm regulating myself virtually, and somebody does an illegal move. Somebody closed fist strikes the guy. Somebody throws an elbow on the ground or whatever. And how does that promotion handle it without the involvement of an outside entity like a commission? Dude, it started me just thinking like even more and more about like, wow, everything needs to be regulated. But at the same time, I hate regulations.
Yeah, it's the worst thing that's happened to any of us. I mean, like you said, I remember back when we first got involved in this, when there was far, far, far fewer regulations. I mean, which has grown the sport, and it's a great thing. I got to preface that. You know, I'm not the old dude telling you your music sucks, but it was a hell of a lot cooler when you were going to fights. You know, there was fights Friday, Saturday, the next week Friday, Saturday, because these promoters for the most part, and to be fair, some of them have stuck out and they're still here, but a lot of them have come and gone, and we've seen how many fights have we been to, and it's like, oh, I forgot that promotion even existed, and they ran 10 fights in under a year somehow. So I mean, it used to be far funner and far more far more fun and more opportunities for the fighters, and that allowed guys like yourself to have all these fights and have a ridiculous amount of fights at such a young age, because there were so many opportunities. Whereas now, there's not as many opportunities. There's not as many shows locally. As an amateur, if you want to fight, you're probably driving 2-3 hours to get a fight. And that makes it a lot tougher. So, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons, and I feel like that's something we can talk about every day.
You just made me think of something, because honestly, like, I feel like more and more people, because the fights are happening less and less, because they're becoming more regulatory, or more regulated, whatever, what word I'm using, whatever. Anyhow, they're more regulated now, so they're happening less and less people are willing to put them on, because it's a risky business. If you want to lose money, you know what you need to do? Become a fight promoter. That's what every fight promoter says, you know. But the ones that continue to do it for a reason, you know, and most of their reasons aren't necessarily money. The people who are doing it for the money are usually one and done. And like you said, we've seen a lot of those promotions. And then we've also seen some that have come on, put on like 10 shows, and then all of a sudden faded away as well, you know. Crap, I forgot where I was going with this.
No, like I said, I feel like you do see it, and you know, the pros and the cons. As things have grown, as things got more expensive, it costs so much more to put on a show now. So it's so far. Like, who can just?
Okay, now I remember. Sorry. Now I remember. So yeah, now that there's less fights and less shows going on, and there's more people joining gyms because there's more gyms now than ever. You know. I remember back when I started MMA, you could have a short list on a piece of paper of how many black belts there were in the state of Minnesota. Now, dude, it's so crazy. That was 15 years ago. We have so many more black belts around now, and then so many more gyms, so many more students, and so many more people looking to compete. But there's less fights. That's what that's kind of where I was going, because all these people are looking to compete. The jiu-jitsu tournaments and these jiu-jitsu promotions that are known to put on what quote unquote super fights. They call them super fights. I still don't understand why they call them super fights, but I still recognize them as super fights. That's what I call them. That's what I say it. But they're jiu-jitsu matches, one-on-one jiu-jitsu matches instead of a jiu-jitsu tournament and things for the people that don't know. And I love it. I love the aspect of it. But those promotions seem to be blowing up crazy right now, especially because there's more regulations over the promotions, and there's less promotions because of that. But one thing that is still unregulated, jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like, what separates combat jiu-jitsu from everything else? Because we can clearly see this is jiu-jitsu, that's striking, this is MMA, you know, what you were saying earlier. But when it gets into combat jiu-jitsu, what separates that from everything else? And is that the way that...
Oh no, you froze on my end. I think you're back. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, that's whack.
Yep.
Are you back? You were talking that shit too.
Am I back?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. It's still frozen the picture. Damn it.
I think this would be a good time to like wrap it up. Then you make a closing statement and then just end the recording, because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's such a fine line between the two. And like you said, the regulations. What is the difference? And we're going to see as this sport continues to grow, what are those next steps, and because there's way more guys looking to compete, and there's far more shows, so that's only going to allow the level to grow and grow and grow. So I think it's great. We're obviously having a little bit of technical difficulties, but this was a fun conversation, and this has been Trash Talk with Damien and TJ. Yeah.